This is Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review with your NFL Week 3 betting preview. We're going to be running down the marquee games in depth on the NFL Week 3 card, including Sunday night and Monday night football. And we're going to change the format a bit this week. I'm going to talk about every single game on this card. Although we're going to only talk about a few of them in depth, I'll still give you some sort of lean or opinion on every game this week in NFL Week 3 action. And of course, at the end of the video, we'll wrap it up with a Play of the Week selection for Week 3. We are 2-0 so far this season in the NFL with my Play of the Week. We'll see if we can make it three in a row here in Week 3 action. Let's begin with Denver and Cincinnati. The first game on the docket, going in rotation order. The Broncos and Bengals should be an interesting AFC matchup here. First road start for Trevor Siemian running this Broncos offense. We'll see if he's able to handle it. You know, he's had some good moments, some not so good moments so far at quarterback. Has thrown a couple interceptions, not something you really want to see. We'll end up seeing here if the Broncos are able to move the football. The key for Denver here in this game on the road against a decent Cincinnati defense, can they run the football? I think they might be able to, with C.J. Anderson in this game. The Bengals' run defense hasn't exactly been stout or sharp so far, allowing 138 rushing yards per game. I think they might be able to get the ground game going, keep Trevor Siemian in short yardage, second and third and short, less pressure situations, because I think they will be able to run the football. On the flip side, what will Cincinnati's offense be able to do against a very, very strong Denver defense? We saw Denver's defense on full display last week, pick six against Indy, fumble return for a touchdown against Andrew Luck late in that game to put it away. Just a dominant defense. However, they'll be down one of their key pass rushers in DeMarcus Ware. He's not going to play. He's out for a few weeks due to injury now. So that means there's probably going to be a little bit more attention placed from that Cincinnati offensive line on Von Miller, neutralizing him at the other edge along that defensive front from a pass rush perspective. So can Andy Dalton navigate his way against this defense? That remains to be seen. But something that people may not be paying attention to, and maybe the betting markets aren't paying attention to it either, Cincinnati's running plays offensively at a much faster pace, much faster tempo so far this season. They're not wasting time getting to the huddle and snapping the next play. And that's something that's a little bit lost, I think, in the total for this game when you look at it at 41.5. I know these are not two prolific offenses by any stretch of the imagination, but Cincinnati is making a point of it to push pace, and that might benefit them to do that here offensively. It's going to be a hot day in Cincinnati on Sunday. Wear down that stiff, very strong, very formidable Denver pass rush. And the way you do that is you snap a lot of plays, you get them tired, especially later in the game. I think if Cincinnati goes to that kind of offensive game plan, it may work out well for them. We're going to come back to this game for Play of the Week at the end of this video. Let's go to the next one, Oakland, Tennessee. Quickly on this game. I could only bet Oakland here. I think there's a little bit of an over-adjustment here with Tennessee after that win against Detroit on the road as an underdog. I think a little bit of an overreaction. Let's see if they can do it. And I think Oakland's going to be a little bit desperate here. 1-1, didn't play very good defensively in either of their first two games against New Orleans and Atlanta. I think they will play better defensively here, and I still think Oakland is the better of these two teams. This number's probably not this cheap on Oakland prior to last week's results, where Oakland loses at home to Atlanta as a favorite, and Tennessee goes on the road and beats Detroit as an underdog. So I think there's value here with Oakland. Lean to the Raiders plus 1.5 in that game. Arizona, Buffalo, it's a pass for me. I'm not overly excited about backing Arizona laying more than a field goal on the road in this game. Early start for a West Coast team traveling east. That's a little bit of a troublesome scenario for them, but I'm not endorsing Buffalo. No way, no how. So it's a clear pass for me in that game. Baltimore, Jacksonville. It's a game there where, right around this pick-em price range, Jacksonville's 0-2. They're desperate, but they really looked bad last week. I mean, Blake Bortles making bad decisions, throwing bad interceptions, defense getting absolutely carved up by San Diego's offense last week, despite being without Keenan Allen, despite losing Danny Woodhead, I should say, in that game, and now his season's gone. So a couple key playmakers out for San Diego. They still had no problem moving the ball on that Jacksonville team. Baltimore now playing their second straight road game. I'm not really ready to endorse the Ravens here, but And you could argue, I think, that there's some point spread value here with Jacksonville off 2 straight losses, but I don't like enough what I'm seeing from the Jags. The hot seat is firmly there for Gus Bradley right now. Not a game I'm going to get involved with. Cleveland, Miami, it's clear. Miami or nothing for me in this game, even at 9.5. Cody Kessler didn't look to me like an NFL quarterback at USC at any point. Didn't look to me like an NFL quarterback at any point in the preseason. Now you got no weapons. Corey Coleman injured his hand earlier this week. He's not playing. You have very little skill position talent around him on this Cleveland team. The offensive line is a mess. The running back situation is a mess. The defense can't get any stops, and that was on full display in the second half against Baltimore last week. And the fact that they allowed Carson Wentz in week 1 to do whatever he wanted offensively when they faced the Eagles in week 1. I think Miami rolls here, to be honest with you. I could only lay it with the Dolphins in that game. Washington and the Giants, desperation spot for the Redskins, 0-2 coming into this game. The Giants, not really impressive, even though they're 2-0. Barely beat Dallas, barely beat the Saints in their first 2 games. Didn't really look impressive in either one. The offense was spotty. The defense does look to be better this season for the Giants. They do have that going for them. Tough one, though. Giants, if it comes down to 3, I'll be interested in the Giants side in this game. I don't see that there's a whole lot to like right now with the Washington Redskins. That being said, I'd need a -3 if I'm going to back the Giants here, and may not see that. Currently the number -3.5 with New York in this game. Detroit, Green Bay at Lambeau Field. What can the Packers do to bounce back? Green Bay is going to be looking to bounce back following a dismal offensive showing, albeit against a phenomenal Minnesota defense last week. And the Packers offense is running out of excuses. Aaron Rodgers is healthy. They have Jordy Nelson back at receiver, and they're still having trouble moving the football and scoring points in bunches. That's an issue. Detroit, I don't know what to make of them. They beat on the road a banged-up Indianapolis team. Then last week they really should have won against Tennessee, but they blow it in the fourth quarter, and the Lions end up losing that game to the Titans. Not sure I'm ready to trust Detroit here. I can't lay 7 with Green Bay with their offense right now, and the Lions have been playing more competitive with the Packers in recent meetings between these two teams. So, I'll lean a little bit to Detroit if you can get +7. Not going to get there with a bet on it. I need to see something from Green Bay offensively. That is for sure. If I'm going to lay these kind of points with them at any point. Minnesota, Carolina. How about this for an NFC showdown? Maybe an NFC championship preview. I know Minnesota doesn't have Teddy Bridgewater. Now Adrian Peterson's out, but this defense is good enough to win games all by themselves. They proved it against Tennessee in week 1. They proved it again last week against Green Bay, shutting down Aaron Rodgers and that Packers offense throughout that game. That defense can cover point spreads by themselves, and that has me interested, at least in the Minnesota side here, catching a full touchdown. However, I would not play it if it falls below that. +7, or better is what I would need to recommend Minnesota here. I do think Minnesota worth a bet in this price range. Concerned for the spot for the Vikings here. I am. That was a big win at home, opening the new stadium, US Bank Stadium, but now you're going on the road. You're worried maybe you're a little bit flat and lethargic. But I think Carolina, defending NFC champions, that's going to have Minnesota's attention in this game. And it's worth noting, Minnesota 6-0 against the spread as a road underdog since Mike Zimmer has been the head coach. This is a tough defense and one that's always appealing and attractive when catching this many points, even against a very good Carolina offense led by quarterback Cam Newton. I still think even with Sam Bradford still learning this offense, he didn't make any mistakes. He's going to have to play a clean game here, or else it could get away from Minnesota if he starts throwing interceptions and they start turning it over. But at +7, that's an awful lot of points to be giving an elite level defense like Minnesota. Vikings, the only way I could look in that game at +7. San Francisco, Seattle taking place on Sunday. You worry that this is a big-time bounce-back spot for Seattle because, bad loss against LA last week. Do they bounce back from it? I think they have the chance to. It's a bit of a tough spot for San Francisco. They were at home against a hapless LA team on that Monday night. Then you went to the East to play Carolina, and you got routed by 19 points. Now, you got to go all the way back to the West Coast, play in Seattle against a PO'd Seattle team looking to make amends for last week. I am not. I am. I'll tell you right now. I am not laying 9.5 with this Seattle offense, period. I mean, this offensive line is in shambles. They're not protecting. They're not opening Russell Wilson. They're not opening up holes for the ground game. I cannot lay 9.5, but I'm going to respect the spot here for Seattle at home off a bad loss, that maybe they put things together and win this game by margin. I just don't trust San Francisco 2 weeks in a row on the road against what's still a pretty solid football team in Seattle. So it's a pass for me in this game again, but I'm not laying 9.5 with Seattle, that's for sure. LA, Tampa Bay, great spot for Tampa Bay as far as I'm concerned. I can only look toward the Bucs here. They're off just an absolute blowout loss at Arizona last week following a win against Atlanta. I think now that they're back home for their home opener, they'll be fine and have a pretty good performance. Bounce back effort for Jameis Winston and that Bucs offense. And that Bucs defense has taken a step down in class. You're going from Arizona's offense to LA's offense with Case Keenum at quarterback. They're going to do what the other teams have done against LA so far this season. Stop the run, shut down Todd Gurley, force Case Keenum. There we go. Force Case Keenum to beat you, and I don't think he's capable of doing that. So I like the spot here for Tampa. LA played that Monday night game. Then they played at home, opening their new stadium, Los Angeles, against Seattle last week. And now you're back on the road. Your first time traveling to the East Coast for this LA team. Remember, they were in St. Louis. They didn't have to do this much travel last year. Maybe an adjustment here for the Rams in their first game where they're traveling from the West Coast to the East Coast since the franchise moved to Los Angeles. So I think it's a tough spot for them. I'd lean to the Rams there. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, great game Sunday. I can only play the Pittsburgh Steelers at this current number of 3.5. Carson Wentz and that Eagles team, their defense has been good. They're buying into Jim Schwartz. I get that, but what can they do against Pittsburgh's offense? You're not playing Cleveland. You're not playing Chicago. You're not playing a banged-up Robert Griffin III. You're not playing Brian Hoyer or Jay Cutler anymore. You're playing Ben Roethlisberger. What can you do defensively against arguably the best offense in the NFL, or at least one of them this week? And on the flip side, can Carson Wentz navigate a much better Pittsburgh defense than either he faced Cleveland or Chicago? That remains to be seen. I think there's a bit too much respect being given to Philadelphia right now, 2-0 against a bunch of patsies. I can only look to the Steelers, 3.5 as road favorites in that game. Jets, Kansas City, going to keep this simple. It's a pass for me. Jets secondary looks like it's not as good as it's been in years past. That's always a bit of a concern. But the Kansas City offensive line is really banged up right now. And Alex Smith and that offense really haven't put things together yet. So tough game to call, heads or tails. Hard to make heads or tails of either team for me right now, so leaving that game alone. Same with the Colts Chargers. I mean, I could only look to San Diego. I want no interest laying points with Indy, although it's a desperation spot for them. Problem with endorsing San Diego in this game is all the injuries they've got offensively right now, and I don't know how much longer they can sustain injuries on offense, considering the fact that, Keenan Allen, Danny Woodhead caught most of the passes from Phillip Rivers last year. Now you're without both guys. Could be an adjustment there for San Diego. Chicago, Dallas, it's the Sunday nighter. This is pretty simple for me. I'm not laying a touchdown with Dallas. I don't care what's going on with Chicago. 5-20 against the spread their last 25 games as a home favorite under Jason Garrett. They've just been a horrible home favorite, the Dallas Cowboys, over the years. Chicago's banged up on defense, though. Brian Hoyer at quarterback, although I don't think he's much of a downgrade, if at all, from Jay Cutler, the way Cutler's been playing. But a lot of injuries on that Chicago defense. I'm not laying it with Dallas, but hard to get to the window for me with a betting support for the Chicago Bears right now. And we wrap it up with Monday Night Football, Atlanta, New Orleans. I think New Orleans offense can get it going. Drew Brees has looked a little old this season, not quite the same. He doesn't look like he's had that same sharpness at the quarterback position. Maybe lost a little bit of strength in his arm as he gets older. But that being said, I still think this is a team that is going to end up being pretty good here offensively against an Atlanta defense that's really, really struggled in their first two games. Maybe we see points scored. I would definitely lean over the total in that game, 53-53.5. Falcons and Saints. Matt Ryan and the offense, that hasn't been an issue for the Falcons. They've been pretty good so far, and against a bad New Orleans defense, in the Dome. Weather won't be an issue. Should see some points on Monday night between the Falcons and Saints. All right, we wrap up my NFL Week 3 betting preview with my play of the week. We're going back to the very first game we talked about, Denver-Cincinnati. You're going to look at these two teams on paper and say, wow, pretty good defenses. Trevor Siemian, Andy Dalton, not exactly great quarterbacks by any stretch. Dalton actually is decent, but I wouldn't put him in elite status. So this total should be 41 and a half where it is. But I think Denver's defense dealing with some issues with their pass rush this week. Cincinnati's going to run fast pace on offense. They're snapping the ball a lot quicker, and I don't think it's being paid attention to enough in the betting markets. I'll look to take advantage. We're going to use Denver-Cincinnati over 41 and a half. That's my NFL Week 3 play of the week. We'll look to go 3-0 on the play of the week with this recommendation. Denver-Cincinnati over the total on Sunday.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SPR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.